it's Melissa here and welcome back to the Scrappery. So today I'm making a layout and I'm using these Sizzix Bigs dies, and the first one I'm cutting here is called Calliope. I'm not sure if that's how you say it, but it's either that or Calliope. And the one that looks like a daisy is called Gerbera, and they are by different designers for Sizzix, but the two flowers work really well together. So I'm just running them through my electronic Sizzix, and I just love using this for dies. This is what I've got here. So the top one is the first one I mentioned, and the bottom one is the Gerbera. So I considered using some of the papers from the kit, but I didn't. This is going to sound ridiculous, but I almost didn't want to waste them cutting them, and I wanted to challenge myself to watercolor them as well. One problem I have when I use kits is I love using pattern paper as a background, and so I don't want to sacrifice pattern paper to be cut up. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm sure you'll know what I mean when you love every single piece of paper. And so what I did was I made these quite bold and bright, which is not the tones, or I guess the tones in the kit. The tones in the kit are quite soft, but I like the way this works against the tones in the kit, if that makes sense. So I'm just showing you how I made a couple of them. I made the top one pink. I already had pink, yellow and orange flowers that I made ahead of time, and then I decided to add purple as well because there's purple in the kit. So just using my tweezers to hold them down so I could paint them, and they curl up a bit as they dry, and that's fine by me. So here is the paper that I'm using, and it was hard to actually sacrifice the A side of the paper. I love that stripe as well, but I love the idea of having these more bold flowers on the soft sort of sketchy foliage. And my photo is of my daughter at the Wearable Arts at school last year. They had to make a costume from recyclable material, and so she made this beautiful dress, excuse me, and she made a bag to go with it as well. So speaking of sacrificing paper, it was really hard for me to cut into that beautiful pink one as well. But I think I've made several layouts with an ombre pink background, so I decided to not. And I just loved how it looked as a like a matte behind my photo. So as always, I've got a white border on my photo. And now I am just, I had a hard time with this, but wanting to place the flowers. I didn't want to go overboard and make too many flowers. I didn't want them to take away from the photo. The photo is bigger than what I normally scrap, and that's because it was taken by, I think one of the parents at school took all the beautiful photos and then we could buy them. And so, yeah, I was real keen to scrap this photo of Azaria. So I thought, often I'll look at a piece of paper like this and want to add some watercolors or some kind of mixed media to it. I know you could also colour in, you could paint some of the flowers, and I've thought about doing that too, but in the end I just decided to go with a few drops of ink. So most of these, I think at Heidi Swap Colour Shine, I've gone for 3 different shades of pink. There are 2 darker ones that are quite similar, and a pale one called Rose. And then I added, I think, tinsel. I didn't want a full-on black splatter, but more like a pewter kind of colour. Yeah, that's what I'm adding there. So I knew my photo was on sort of centre right, so I didn't bother splattering in the middle. Now that cut apart must be one of the most beautiful cut aparts I've ever seen. And I looked at this for a while because it's so gorgeous, trying to make my mind up. I wanted to use that girl cut apart, but as you'll see, it doesn't make it to the layout. Just stunning. Yeah. So that, I think, when I placed them side by side, I realised that that girl cut apart is going to take away from my photo. And then I saw this shine bright little square, and I thought that was perfect to describe my daughter. So what they did was each child walked through, like, it wasn't a catwalk, but they walked through the audience and stopped at certain parts, so you got to see their costume. So in order to make this doily work, because it is too small, I've just cut it through the middle and going to place it back on either side of my photo with double-sided tape. And it takes me a bit to work out how I want it. I want it to be seen, but I don't want it to be too full on either. It just breaks up the rectangle, I guess, angular photo. So happy with that, and I want to put some foam behind it just to lift it up. Yeah, and once again, double-sided tape is the best thing for sticking down foam. I'm using the Scotch quick dry glue at the moment, and I don't know, I know lots of people in the States love using it and are really happy with it, but whatever brand or variety of it we have here is not working that well. I find that things don't stay stuck, and that includes the foam. So when I turned over my photo, I found that I needed a bit more stabilization just at the top and bottom of my photo. It was bending down. I didn't want that. I wanted the whole photo to be lifted off the page. Now, I also cut these leaves, and it's another Big's die Sizzix, and it's called Wild Hedgerow, and I just love how this turns out. I think I went with the textured side of the paper, and my intention here was to provide some subtle white leaves. I didn't want to paint them green, it would have been too much, and I just like the subtle texture that they add, and I will go ahead and stitch down the centre of each of them. Sorry guys, I've had the flu a couple of weeks ago, and then I was left with this like head cold, chest cold, so that's why my voice is a bit funny and why I have to keep clearing my throat, so apologies for that. So as with the splatters, I didn't need to put them under the photo. I think I had some kind of poking out, and I didn't want to put glue down the centre of them because I knew I'd be stitching, so I just put a bit of glue to hold them down, and then you can see where I've stitched through the middle. So placing my photo back, and then trying to decide where to put these flowers. And like I said, this was challenging for me because I'm not used to, I guess, working with such a large flower. And I also struggle because there's only one size flower that you can cut with a die, obviously, and the die doesn't have a smaller flower. So it's not like a silhouette or a cricket cut where you can cut it as many times and to the size that you want. So that was certainly challenging, and you'll see that this layout was challenging in other ways too when I come to embellish. So here I'm just showing you how I put these flowers together. So you want to find the center, and then have, so you got 4 different flower parts, and you want them to be uneven so that the petals cover the entire circumference. I hope that makes sense, but you'll see what I mean. And it gives more dimension just by bending up the edges. And I love how these turned out. They're really beautiful. Actually, my nearly 5-year-old Brielle, she saw this layout and she wanted me to do some of these flowers for her as well. So that might be another plan for another project. So here, placing the flowers or the petals on for this flower. This flower was a little bit easier than the other one. And I've just used a brad, white brad from my stash. I've had these for so long, I don't even know where I got them from. But they were perfect. The die actually comes with a little circle that you could stick in the middle, but I like the way that the brads look, and they're a lot smaller too. So just adhering that Shine Bright, which I fussy cut. I thought that looked a lot more fluid than the square edges, and also broke up from the large photo having square edges. Now these stickers are translucent and absolutely beautiful, and so I just added the paint swatch at the bottom, and that's where I realised that I haven't even stuck down my photo. So I had to rip my doily a bit there because it had gotten stuck on the glue that I put on the Shine Bright. But no one would ever know, only you. And then I went with the blue one above as well, and I think that provides quite a good anchoring point for my photo. So at this point I wasn't sure how I was going to adhere these, but because they're so dimensional and the brad prongs are quite solid, I thought I could just adhere them with a couple of those are Stampin' Up dimensionals, and that worked really well. So just sticking them down, and I decided to have them kind of flow from the top right to the left of the photo. So just working on placement. Yeah, I'm really happy with how this turned out in the end, but it definitely was a struggle to embellish, as you'll see soon. And most importantly, I think I've already said, I did not want to take away from that photo and that beautiful costume that she made. So here, I wasn't going to add the leaves in, but something was lacking. I did struggle because the leaves are green, and in particular the gerbera leaves are a lot darker than the other flower, but I think it turned out well, and I'm happy with the fact that they look more realistic as flowers, I suppose. So added a couple of flare badges here. I forgot that I'd added the one with the girl, and then I added the other one as well, but I think it's fine. I did look through the ephemera pack and thought about adding those beautiful flowers. They are similar to what's on the background paper, but they've got some watercolour effect on them, but they just got lost, and I decided to save them for another layout. I tried to use that little love this circle, it also didn't work. And then I went for these more sketchy, more coloured flowers, but also I decided that less was more when it came to flowers. I added a couple of butterflies and popped up one side of, 3 butterflies, popped up one side of each of the wings, excuse me, and my final touch was to add these enamel dots. There's a heart sticker there as well. Couple of heart stickers. I also added the word, and I placed on my date, and coming up will be the final layout with the journaling added. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I will be back again next week. Thank you.